Unit 10, Mendelian Genetics. Gregor Mendel is responsible for the laws of governing inheritance of traits. He was an Austrian monk, and he studied the inheritance of traits in pea plants. He developed the laws of inheritance. Mendel's work was not recognized until the turn of the 20th century. Between 1856 and 1863, Mendel cultivated and tested somewhere in the numbers of 28,000 pea plants. He found the plant's offspring retained traits of their parents, and he's really known as the father of genetics. So his work paved the whole way for the unit that we're studying right now. Here's a site of Gregor Mendel's experimental garden in the Czech Republic. Mendel stated that physical traits are inherited as particles. Mendel did not know that the particles were actually chromosomes and DNA, which is what we know today. A trait is any characteristic that can be passed from parent to offspring. Heredity. This is the passing of traits from parent to offspring. Genetics is the study of heredity. Alleles. This is two forms of a gene, dominant and recessive. Dominant, the stronger of the two genes, expressed in the hybrid. It's represented by a capital letter R in this case. Recessive, a gene that shows up less often in a cross. It's represented by a lowercase letter, little r in this case. We're going to watch a quick video on Mendel's pea plant experiments.
These days, scientists know how you inherit characteristics from your parents. They're able to calculate probabilities of having a specific trait or getting a genetic disease according to the information they have from the parents and the family history. But how is this possible? To understand how traits pass from one living being to its descendants, we need to go back in time to the 19th century and a man named Gregor Mendel. Mendel was an Austrian monk and biologist who loved to work with plants. By breeding the pea plants he was growing in the monastery's garden, he discovered the principles that rule heredity. In one of the most classic examples, Mendel combined a purebred yellow-seeded plant with a purebred green-seeded plant, and he got only yellow seeds. He called the yellow color trait the dominant one, because it was expressed in all the new seeds. Then he let the new yellow-seeded hybrid plants self-fertilize, and in this second generation he got both yellow and green seeds, which meant that the green trait had been hidden by the dominant yellow. He called this hidden trait the recessive trait. From those results, Mendel inferred that each trait depends on a pair of factors, one of them coming from the mother and the other from the father. Now we know that these factors are called alleles and represent the different variations of a gene. Depending on which type of allele Mendel found in each seed, we can have what we call a homozygous pea, where both alleles are identical, and what we call a heterozygous pea, when the two alleles are different. This combination of alleles is known as genotype, and its result, being yellow or green, is called phenotype. To clearly visualize how alleles are distributed amongst descendants, we can use a diagram called the Punnett square. You just place the different alleles on both axes, and then you figure out the possible combinations. Let's look at Mendel's peas, for example. Let's write the dominant yellow allele as an uppercase Y, and the recessive green allele as a lowercase y. The uppercase y always overpowers its lowercase friend, so the only time you get green babies is if you have two lowercase y's. In Mendel's first generation, the yellow homozygous pea mom will give each pea kid a yellow dominant allele, and the green homozygous pea dad will give a green recessive allele, so all the pea kids will be yellow heterozygous. Then, in the second generation, where the two heterozygous kids marry, their babies could have any of the three possible genotypes, showing the two possible phenotypes in a 3-to-1 proportion. But even peas have a lot of characteristics. For example, besides being yellow or green, peas may be round or wrinkled. So we could have all these possible combinations: round yellow peas, round green peas, wrinkled yellow peas, and wrinkled green peas. To calculate the proportions for each genotype and phenotype, we can use a Punnett square too. Of course, this will make it a little more complex. And lots of things are more complicated than peas, like, say, people. These days, scientists know a lot more about genetics and heredity, and there are many other ways in which some characteristics are inherited. But it all started with Mendel and his peas.